Hi, I'm Maria from Storycorps. Welcome to our introduction to Storycorps' Great Thanksgiving Listen for students. Today we'll introduce you to Storycorps and our annual Great Thanksgiving Listen. We'll give you the foundations of storycraft, then we'll spend some time getting you ready to conduct your own interview, taking you through every single component so you'll feel confident on recording day. We'll show you how to record with our digital tools, Storycorps Connect and the app. By the end of it, you'll be ready to go out into the field. Let's get started. So what is Storycorps? Storycorps is a national nonprofit dedicated to recording, preserving, and sharing the stories of people of all backgrounds and beliefs. We do this to build connections between people and create a more just, compassionate world. But what does that mean? Let's hear how our founder, Dave Isay, describes Storycorps.
I just start by asking you one of the questions on my list, right?
Anything you want.
Okay. So what were you like as a kid?
I was pretty weird. I didn't want to do anything but watch TV. And I spent a lot of time by myself. But I always liked talking to older people, like the waitress at the luncheonette near my house or my grandparents. I remember when I was just a few years older than you, your great-grandpa Abe and your great-grandma Rose and her sisters came over to our apartment for Thanksgiving. After dinner, I found this tape recorder lying around, and somehow I got the idea to interview them. I didn't have a clue what I was doing, but I recorded their voices and stories, and I saw how much they loved being listened to. A few years later, your great-grandpa and your great-grandma and all her sisters passed away. But I remembered I'd made that tape, so I went looking for it, but I couldn't find it. Even now, when I go to your grandma's house, I go looking for that tape, just hoping it's going to turn up.
I don't get it. Why do you keep looking for it?
Because it would make me so happy to hear those voices again, and I'd love to play that tape for you. You know, doing that recording really taught me something. You can find the most amazing stories from regular people. All you have to do is ask them about their lives and listen.
Really? That's it?
Yeah, it's simple. We can learn so much about the people all around us, even about the people we already know, just by taking the time to have a conversation. And if you pay just a little attention, you'll find wisdom and poetry in their words.
Do people really want you to ask about their lives?
Yeah, they do. Most people love to be listened to because it tells them how much their lives matter. All you need to ask are questions like, who is the most important person in your life? Or what are you proudest of? Really, listening closely is simple. When you're curious, treat people with respect, and have just a little courage to ask the important questions, great things are going to happen.
Our annual Great Thanksgiving Listen is about taking time from your day, less than an hour, to find someone with whom you want to share a meaningful discussion and ask them the questions that matter to you and share your own thoughts. You'll help create an oral history of the contemporary United States by recording an interview with an elder, mentor, friend, or someone you admire. With all participants' permission, interviews will become part of the Storycorps archive at the American Folklife Center at the Library of Congress. This means your interview will become part of American history. And thanks to our online Storycorps archive, the complete interview is also shareable with educators, friends, and family. Here's an example of a classic Storycorps interview, Double Major, to provide you with some inspiration.
I wasn't planning on having you as my roommate. I actually thought that if Bowdoin College knew I had you, they wouldn't let me come to college. So I hadn't mentioned it to anyone. And I got a job working at Staples, cleaning at night. And I had to take you in with me at work sometimes and hide you in the closet. I think I lost something like 27 pounds just from stress and not eating because I didn't have enough for both of us. My basketball teammates were my first babysitters. I just remember coming from class and there were 4 giant guys and then there was this 18-month-old who was tearing up the room.
Were you ever embarrassed bringing me to class or just having me in general?
I felt a little awkward, but never embarrassed. There were times when the only way I could get through was to come in and look at you and see you sleeping and then go back to my studies. And my graduation day from Bowdoin is a day I'll never forget. You know, all of my classmates, they stood up and gave me the only standing ovation.
I remember walking up with you and having my head in your shoulder.
Yeah. The dean called both of our names as he presented us with the diploma.
So technically I already graduated from college.
Nice try. That degree only has my name on it, so you still gotta go.
I really admire your strength. And I love you.
I draw my strength from you. I always have, and I still do.
Hi, I'm Daniel, Regional Manager and longtime Storycorps Facilitator. I'll walk you through some pro tips on how to do an interview and just how to create a story, or at least how to make sure that a good story happens. Stories are important because they're a primary way we process information about the world. They're what we tell about ourselves or about our community, about our country, about everything. Stories engage us, at least good ones do. They cause us to listen, to understand, to feel, to pay attention. Let's talk about what makes a great story. Many of the stories you're going to hear follow the classic story arc: beginning, middle, and reflection. If you hear a narrator breaking into story, that's your cue. It's your job to guide the narrator through the story, to hit all those arcs. They hit as much as they can anyway. We're going to show you how to do that in just a few minutes. You may also hear nonlinear stories. In a nonlinear story, the narrator guides the listener along in a cohesive manner from various themes along the topic and leaves the audience with a greater understanding of the topic. So let's begin. How do you do a good interview? Well, the secret here is preparation. Lots of preparation. Prep work. Yes, you are going to have homework and you need to do it. Otherwise, your interview is going to not be as great as it should be. So, first, who's the person? Identify your subject. Could be a grandparent, teacher, adult, sibling, somebody in the neighborhood that you admire, friend. Think about who is it that you want to interview. Then think about why. What is the story that you want this person to tell you? What are you hoping to learn? It might be a life history, such as what was their life like as a kid. Could be an event. Maybe they saw something that was very interesting, and you could ask them, what was it like to be there? What did you see? Could be a topic. What do they think about something? How has their thoughts changed on it? Have their thoughts changed on it? And it could be personal. You could ask them, how do they identify? Why? Most of the interviews are going to incorporate many of these elements. That's okay. It's a mix and a match. That's what makes a good interview. You never really know what you're going to get. Now let's talk about writing questions. No matter your interview type, you got to get the narrator comfortable. So you're going to need an opening question. It should be something easy. Like, tell me about yourself. Who are you? Where are you from? What is something about you that somebody would be surprised to learn? What's something you want everybody to know about you? These are just ways to get the conversation started. Now, remember the story arc? Beginning, middle, end, and a reflection. Most people, when they tell a story, they start in the middle, and they stay there. That's fine. Your job as an interviewer is to get them to talk about the parts that they're missing. So if they're starting in the beginning, then that's great. What happened next? What happened next? If they're starting in the middle, maybe at some point you would want to ask them, oh, how did that all start? Why were you there? How did this all begin for you? And you want to get the full story. So then you ask questions like, and then what happened? What happened after that? You also want to make sure you get the peak. What did it feel like to experience that? What happened at the end? Now, the hard part, the reflection. Reflection is not something that comes easy to many storytellers. So you'll need to get them to maybe even think about something they hadn't thought about. What changed for you when that happened? What did you learn from that experience? How did that impact you? All of those are questions you can ask to get people reflecting on how their experience changed them. For nonlinear stories, well, you still have questions you have to ask. Sorry, it's part of the gig. What did you think about eggs? How did you come to feel that way? What was the process that led you to that idea? Did you always feel that way? What changed? Some other tips are going to help you no matter what kind of interview you have. Set up some context. Who are you talking to? Who are you? What's your relationship with this person? All of that needs to be included so that who's ever listening to it has an idea of what's happening. Best way to set this up is just ask. When you sit down with your narrator, ask them, what's your name? What's your age? What's their relationship to you? If there's something that's really important to the story about their background, you should include that. So if you're talking about cars, you might want to mention if your narrator is a mechanic, or if you were a mechanic. All this just provides some context so that the listener has an idea of what they're listening to and why. Also make sure to get important details, stuff that people miss. Think of the 5 senses. If somebody's talking to you about their experience with an alien abduction, ask them, what did the ship look like? What did it smell like? What did the air feel like? What were the sounds coming from the ship? Make sure you tag this because I really want to hear it. The key here is important details. Whether something happened on a Tuesday or Thursday is usually not all that important, and it just can bog down the story. Make sure you focus on what's most important. If it's about the experience, get the full experience. Again, think of the 5 senses. A thing that a lot of people leave out is how they felt about a situation. Ask them. How did it feel? What was going through your mind? What did your body feel like at that moment? One more note about reflection. Again, it's really hard for somebody to reflect on the story. And you can't just come out and ask somebody, reflect on your story and tell me what you've learned. But there are things you can do in order to get people to that place. Did the experience change you? Did it help you become the person you are today? How do you think about this experience now? How do you feel about this memory? Other tips are, ask an open-ended question. If you ask people a yes or no question, they'll give you a yes or no answer. Also, don't be afraid to follow up. Somebody says something in passing. Go with it. We call that sticking with the good stuff. Let's see what Karen learns about interviewing.
You must be my 2 o'clock. How may I help you?
I'm here for the interview. I mean, how to conduct an interview.
Great. I've broken it down into 4 important tips. Grab a pen and sit down. Well, I will start with the first one. Effective interview questions touch on big, important subjects. Now, let's watch this film to get an example.
What's the biggest challenge you faced throughout high school?
I was bullied both in school and online. It got so bad last year that I actually stopped going to school.
See how this student shared something about an experience that impacted her? When you get someone to talk about something important to them, you might be able to help someone else who has the same issue. Okay?
Yes, sir.
Tip number 2, open-ended questions. Keep the conversation going because they require more than a yes or no answer.
Have you grown as a person throughout high school?
Yes.
That was a closed-ended question, a question that can only be answered by a yes or no. And all the interviewer got as an answer was a simple yes. That was it. Now, let's see an open-ended question.
How have you grown as a person throughout high school based off of something that happened to you?
One time I was working late and I came home so exhausted. I fell asleep before I could finish my history project. Usually in the past I would have just taken the 0, but
See what I mean? An open-ended question provides a more detailed answer. That's the goal here. Now let's move on to the third. After the person being interviewed answers, try to use a follow-up question. It makes it easier for the person being interviewed to continue the conversation on the subject. Now let's look at an example of a follow-up question.
Describe how you felt on your first day of being a high school freshman.
Honestly, I didn't know how to feel. I was very nervous.
What were you so nervous about?
I was definitely nervous about fitting in and meeting people because it was a new school and I didn't know anybody. I was also nervous.
You see, you always get more depth in a subject when you key in on what the interviewee says. Now let's move on to our final tip. Effective questions prove that the interviewer cares for and listens to the interviewee. Our last example.
What are your plans for after high school?
I want to go to college in-state because I know it's more affordable. I'm not sure what school yet.
You see what he's
but
doing here? He's facing the interviewee, making eye contact, listening, nodding, letting them speak. But most important, no phone, no TV. He's eliminated all distractions so they can stay focused.
Wow, that was good.
You better believe it. And you know what?
What?
I can see that you are going to be one great interviewer.
Really?
Of course, you stick to those 4 tips I gave you and you are good to go. Now, get out in the world, do some interviews, and treat the people you interview like you care about what they're saying. Ask questions of topics of importance and be curious and have an open heart.
Yes, sir.
The key to being a great interviewer is listening. You have to be listening to what the person is saying. If you are actively listening, then you can respond. If you're not listening, if you're just really thinking about the next question you need to ask, your mind is not on the other person, and you're going to miss out on the good stuff. Let's learn more about active listening with Karen and Saba.
Karen, you're here, and you're early. A great attribute for an interviewer.
I learned from the best. I can't wait to show you how my interview turned out.
Show me.
I have it here on my tablet. I had my friend record it so you can give me feedback.
Okay, let's see it.
First, tell me your name and one thing about yourself.
My name is Saba, and I am Muslim. Islam is not just my religion, but it's my way of life.
Looks like you're off to a great start. I noticed you leaned in and smiled while Saba was talking. Those are examples of excellent nonverbal cues. They show the interview subject that you're interested in what she has to say without your speaking. So let's continue.
So, Saba, you said Islam isn't just your religion, but a way of life. Tell me more.
As a Muslim, everything I have to do has a specific reason, which includes the clothes I wear, like my hijab. But I will never forget how I felt last year, when a boy in my class asked out loud, "Saba, do you have hair? Are you bald?" I turned around in my seat. I was hurt and embarrassed at the same time.
How did you respond to that?
Why'd you stop it? You're doing great. I couldn't be more pleased.
Thanks, but I have a question.
Go ahead.
Is it okay for me to frown if the person says something that hurts or embarrasses them?
You don't want to frown, but you do want to let them know that you're listening to what they're saying. That's why I applauded your leaning in and smiling. So,
It seemed like everyone in the class was just waiting for my answer. He should have been able to see that I had hair anyway. I mean, he sits right behind me. Just looking at the back of my head, he could have seen the hairbun on the back.
So what did you say?
never interrupt. No matter how anxious you are to hear what someone has to say, you never interrupt.
But you've seen them on television. Reporters cut people off all the time.
Yes, I've seen that. But you're not here to get someone to confess to wrongdoing or to moderate a political debate. You've asked a classmate to share a very personal story. And good interviewers know that the people they interview are important and conduct their interviews with respect and sensitivity and curiosity. So even if a person doesn't answer the question you ask, let them finish their thoughts and don't interrupt them. So you may want to wait 3 to 5 seconds, counting quietly to yourself before you ask the next question. You never know what interesting facts and details you might miss. And an important way to demonstrate your respect is never to interrupt.
Oh, I see.
Okay, let's continue.
I answered his question. I said, yes, of course I have hair. Don't you see it? And then, I kind of got interested in my religion.
Overall, Karen, you did a great job. You used body language to show Saba that you cared about her without your having to speak. You also had very good follow-up questions, and you can only have very good follow-up questions if you're listening to what a person is saying. But remember, don't rush them, don't interrupt them. Let them finish their thoughts. But most important, while she's talking, listen. Listen and listen.
Some things to keep in mind. What's the heart of the discussion? What is it you want to learn about this? Don't over-prepare. This is a conversation. This might be somebody you've known for a long time. That's great. You've already done the prep work through your relationship. Don't overdo it. Relax. Be yourself. It'll work out. Listen more than you talk. You have 2 ears and 1 mouth. That ratio exists for a reason. Don't interrupt the narrator. Let them talk. Even if you feel it's off base, let them go. You never know when you're going to find the good stuff. Don't be afraid of a little bit of silence either. If somebody says something, once they're done, let the silence happen. Maybe 3 seconds of silence after you're done talking. You'd be surprised at what people will add if you just give them the chance. As an aside, if you ever do want to edit the clips, that little bit of silence at the end, really helpful for production.
One hour prior to the interview, ensure your phone or computer is fully charged. Check your internet connection and make sure it's stable. Use the restroom. Ensure you're hydrated. And prepare your recording area. Give yourself 5 minutes at the top or the start of the interview to navigate to StoryCorps Connect, log in, open the chat room, and then send the link to your interviewee. Remember, they're going to need a few minutes to get logged in and to meet you at that chat room as well. Make sure you make room for this time. If you're using the app, make sure that you have time to open the app and confidently navigate to a new interview and press record. Start your interview by pressing record. Next, have both parties read the audio ID. The audio ID goes like this. My name is Maria Santiago. I'm 35 years old. Today is September 21st, 2020, and I'm speaking with Daniel Horowitz Garcia, my colleague. I'm recording this interview in Stamford, Connecticut. Daniel will also read the exact same thing, substituting in his information, his name, age, city, and state. It's really important that both participants do the audio ID. Next, you're going to conduct your interview by starting with your first warm-up questions. Most interviews last 35 to 40 minutes. Remember, with the app, you can press pause. With StoryCorps Connect, you cannot press pause. At the end of the interview, thank your interview partner for recording with you. Stop the recording, and then discuss privacy options. We have 3 privacy options. The first, public, means that your interview and related information are available to anyone on the web. The next option, StoryCorps Community, means that your interview and related information are available to anyone with an account on the StoryCorps archive, available at archive.storycorps.org. The third option, private, means that your interview and related information are private. Private interviews cannot be added to public communities. If your interview is currently part of a public community, selecting private will prevent people in that community from viewing the interview. Currently, only the interview owner, the person who initiates the chat room or who's logged into the app, has the power to change these privacy settings. Tell your interviewee that you'll update the settings to their preference at any time, and then do it. Tell your conversation partner how you'll give them access to a copy of the interview. Via email is recommended. For bonus points, download a copy of the interview and share the MP3 with them for their personal safekeeping. After the interview, press save. Next, you're going to fill out our metadata form. Our Keywording 101 handout walks you through best practices in filling out StoryCorps' interview information form. Don't forget your special hashtag. Your teacher should give you a class-specific hashtag to add to your record so that you can easily find each other's interviews. On the metadata form, you'll input privacy settings per your agreement with your interviewee. Press save, and the interview will be uploaded to the archive. At that point, you'll have a few options. You might upload to your class community page. You might create excerpts or clips using a free audio editing tool such as Audacity. Or you might log into our online archive to retrieve your interview and share it on social media. Finally, thank your interview partner again. They did you a great service. Send them a handwritten thank you note, and again, be sure to provide them with a link to the interview. Use StoryCorps Connect if you're connecting over the internet with the person you're interviewing. Connect is our browser-based video chat service that allows you to conduct a StoryCorps interview while socially distanced. Use the StoryCorps app if you're physically present with the person you're interviewing, i.e. you're sitting right next to each other in person, face-to-face. Let's watch a short video that explains how to use StoryCorps Connect.
This is Dave Isay, founder of StoryCorps. To record your StoryCorps Connect interview, log into your StoryCorps account and follow these simple steps. Step 1. Pick someone to honor with an interview and invite them to participate. Step 2. Prepare questions using our great question list. Step 3. Go to StorycorpsConnect.org, click Record Your Story, and send the interview link to your partner. Step 4. Click Start Recording Audio, ask your questions, and listen closely. Remember, you can't pause an interview. Step 5. When you're done interviewing, click Stop Recording. Discuss the privacy setting that feels right with your partner, then save your interview. Step 6. Add a title and keywords to your interview. Step 7. Archive your interview. Rest assured the audio and still photos from your interview have been saved. After they're processed, your interview will be preserved in the StoryCorps archive and at the Library of Congress, where it will become part of American history. Share your interview far and wide and know that someday future generations will be listening.
Now let's watch a short video that explains how to use the StoryCorps app.
With StoryCorps' app, you can record a meaningful interview with someone close to you. Ask simple questions like, what are you most grateful for? How do you want to be remembered? Then, listen. It's easy. All you have to do is follow these simple steps. Step 1. Get the StoryCorps app for your mobile device and create a free account. Step 2. Pick a partner. This can be anyone you'd like to get to know better. Choose interview questions from lists provided in the app or written by you, and find a quiet, comfortable place where you won't be interrupted. Step 3. Let the app guide the way. Follow the prompts to begin recording and let the conversation flow. Step 4. After the interview is over, take a selfie with your partner and add a title to help you keep track of your conversation. Add a summary, things like what did you talk about, where, and with whom. Finally, add keywords, simple words and phrases that make it easier for you to find your interview in our collection. Step 5. Choose the privacy setting that feels right, and make sure to publish your interview so it will be added to the StoryCorps archive and preserved at the Library of Congress. You can choose to share your story with the world or keep it private and share your file directly with family and friends.
It's time to get started. With permission from your parent or guardian, create an account at the online archive at archive.storycorps.org. This is a must if you plan to record with Connect. both Connect participants will need to have an account and be logged in prior to starting the interview. Or download the StoryCorps app on your smartphone. Note that recording with our app works best on a smartphone. We do not recommend recording with a tablet. If you have a tablet, record with Connect. For best results, put your phone on airplane mode while you record. That way you won't get any disruptions mid-conversation. For further help, visit our resources at thegreatlisten.org.
Thanks for watching. You're going to have a great interview. I can't wait to listen to the story. Bye now.
Thank you so much for participating in the 2020 Great Thanksgiving Lesson. You're going to do great. I already know it. Take care and bye.